Microphone's working?
Test.
Test.
Go ahead, do it again.
Test.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. The volume's not very good.
You can hear us all right in the room or no? Okay.
Okay. All right, we ready?
Ready back there?
Ready in the back? Okay. Good evening. Start that over. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 6, 2023 Bruce Township Planning Commission meeting. Our meeting start time is 7 p.m. Dana, will you please call the roll?
Ed Kubitz.
Present.
Rick Hagelsting.
Here.
Randy Cant.
Here.
Anne Marie Boyce.
Here.
Mandy Barnett.
Here.
Mike Tremblay.
Here.
Jared Vincent.
Here. We have a quorum. And before we start the business part of the meeting, I would ask that everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so just a couple items as we get started here. This is a public business meeting of the Planning Commission, but we do welcome public comments about various points throughout our agenda. We do request that you sign in the sheet to my right on the table if you've not already done so. This gives us a record of who is in attendance this evening. The commission is made up of 7 Bruce Township residents appointed by the board. In addition, we have a township employee, Dana Buchanan, to my left, who assists us with recording the meeting minutes and also is the planning coordinator for the township, helps guide us through some of the items. On my right is Joe Tangari. He's a professional planner with Giffords Webster and is an advisor to our meeting and the work that we do. There will be opportunities on our agenda for public questions and comments. Generally, we ask that you keep the comments to roughly 3 minutes, but if you are here representing a larger group or subdivision or a group of residents, we will allot you a few extra minutes in those cases. We do ask that you're mindful of the time to allow all those that want to speak to have a chance. If you do come to the podium and choose to speak, we'd ask you to state your name and your address so we have a record of who you are. And at any comments, please address the commissioners and not anybody in the audience. And on the behalf of my fellow commissioners, we do appreciate your participation in this meeting this evening. All right. Approval of the minutes from the November meeting. Are there any edits?
I would suggest on page 4, near the top, outdoor storage, that the motion be beefed up to indicate the correct section in ordinance 161. I don't think it's 4.4. It was 4.4 in your handout. Do you know what the actual ordinance reference should be?
What's the,
Outdoor storage.
oh, outdoor storage, yeah. Hold on a second. 4.40.
I looked in our ordinance, 4.40 is not that.
Well, it does have a different title.
I'm just saying, since it's an official record of the township, it should reflect the exact section, and that's not it. It's 4.39,
It is, actually, yes, it is 4.39.
so it should say 4.39.
I'm leaving the and 4 and 5.
I think we should add some descriptive in there, because it doesn't, it should say maybe 4.39 outdoor storage.
Yeah, do you want the current section title or the will be section
Will be.
title? Okay. That would be outdoor storage would be the future title.
And then it would be, outdoor storage, correct. And then items 4 and 5, those SLUs, if they exceed, and rather than the amounts in item 2, I would say the outdoor storage parameters as described in 4.39B2,
Sure, yeah.
right? Just because it's an official minutes of the record, so it adds more clarity to what we did.
As described in what, Mike? You said?
As described in section 4.39B2. Because we're proposing to replace 4.39 with this. Right?
Yep.
And then the rest is fine.
You capture that, Dana?
Yes.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
Let me read it back, because there's one.
Okay.
So, to change, instead of 4.4B, it's 4.39 outdoor storage. And then, those SLUs, if they exceed the outdoor storage parameters as described in section 4.39E2.
Correct.
Any other comments on the meeting minutes from November? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Motion by Tremblay,
I'll second it.
second by Cupits. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approval of the agenda. You all have the agenda in front of you. Are there any changes that we need to make?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Tremblay, seconded by Barnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item 6 in the agenda is our public comment. So this is, if you are here to talk about any items in a generic sense that are not on the agenda tonight, just anything about what's going on in the township, this is an opportunity for you to come up to the podium and speak. If you are here about the vacant land rezoning on Van Dyke or outdoor storage, those are separate public hearings that will come next. So hold those comments, but if you're here to talk about anything else, now's an opportunity to come up to the podium. All right, seeing no one, we'll move on to item 7, which is public hearings, the Walker vacant land rezoning. Getting a updated review, we open the public hearing.
I think what we do is ask the applicant if they'd like to address.
Okay. Dan or Roger, does either of you want to come up and address the updates to the rezoning request? I know there's been some changes since the last time it was presented before we open the public hearing.
Good evening. Yeah, so the changes basically were, we offered 3 conditions with the application or revised application. One being that it could only be used as a storage facility if it were to not ever get developed as a storage facility, it would revert back to the current zoning. Another was a berm, to the township standards when we got to a site plan review in the back eastern part, and then towards the front where Van Dyke is. And then I believe the third one was a fence to, again, similar to the berm site plan review. Other than that, everything was the same as before.
Okay. Thank you for that.
All
Yeah,
right,
you're
yep.
good. Thank you. So before we open the public hearing, Joe, would you mind running us through your review of the application?
Okay, sure. I didn't see a mention of a fence in the conditions, so if that is something that is being offered, it's got to be added to the conditions. As far as the conditions are concerned, one other thing I would note is that it does note that the petitioners agree that in the event the conditions hereunto are not met, the property shall or revert back to its original zoning of R1 residential. And that would be also include, if it's not developed, it would revert back to R1. The thing is, we don't have a time frame on that. So setting some sort of time frame is probably a good idea, and you can discuss that with the applicant. To review, I know the Planning Commission dealt with this site earlier, but everyone who's watching might not have. So we have a 20.15 acre site. It is vacant. It's on Van Dyke, just south of Ebbling Road. Currently has R1 zoning, and they are proposing a conditional rezoning to M1 with the conditions that were just discussed. So if it were to be rezoned to M1, a self-storage facility is the only use that would be available to it. Surrounding properties are zoned R1, with the exception of when you get across M53, you have a mix of R1 and R1A over there. Single-family homes, agricultural uses are the primary surrounding uses. To the north, there is a cricket growing operation, hornworms and crickets. Master plan designates this property and surrounding properties east of Van Dyke as rural estate. A development impact statement hasn't been submitted. One of the items that they submitted did have a little narrative from them as to why that is. Essentially resting on the use that they're proposing if the property is rezoned, self-storage being a low traffic use. And we have our typical list of items to consider when we're looking at an amendment to the zoning map. So we're always balancing a consideration of the policy goals and the future land use map of the master plan with the likely impact of the rezoning on surrounding properties and the need for the development type permitted by the rezoning. So the first question we always ask is the proposed rezoning consistent with the master plan? So generally the master plan contemplates this area for large lot, single-family development. What impact would the requested zoning have on public services and utilities and natural features? The application includes a condition limiting the use of the land to a storage facility. Generally, that's a low-intensity use in terms of traffic and service demands. Has the applicant provided evidence that the property cannot be developed or used as zoned? Not as such. Is the property zoning, proposed zoning district and potential land uses compatible with surrounding uses? The site's surrounded by homes, residentially zoned vacant land on three sides. To the north, the land is occupied by a use that grows hornworms, crickets, and other insects indoors for use as food for domestic reptiles and other pets. Next question is, will the proposed zoning place a burden on nearby thoroughfares, and if so, how would this burden compare with the existing zoning district? So a self-storage facility is not likely to have a significant traffic impact on a road like M53 in its daily operation. They are a confirmed low traffic use. Will development of the site under proposed zoning be able to meet zoning district requirements? Appears that M1 development could meet district requirements on the lot. Again, it's 20 acres, so there's a fair amount of room to work with there in terms of setbacks and things. Is rezoning the best way to address the request, or could the existing zoning district be amended to add the proposed use as a permitted or special land use? Generally speaking, it would not be appropriate to add storage facilities to a single-family district. Has there been a change in circumstances and conditions since adoption of the master plan that would support the proposed change? It appears that development in this area mostly predates the last master plan. There are a few newer houses in the subdivision to the east. But that was, the condo was in place at the time of the last master plan. Would granting the request result in the creation of an unplanned spot zone? So spot zoning is the process of singling out a small parcel of land for a use classification totally different than that of the surrounding area for the benefit of a single property owner and to the detriment of others. Typically, to determine if a rezoning would constitute spot zoning, a municipality would look to answer 3 questions. 1, is the rezoning request consistent with the master plan for the area? 2, is the proposed zoning district a logical extension of an existing zoning district in the area? And 3, would approving the request grant a special benefit to a property owner or developer? So we've talked about the master plan designation for the site. The nearest M1 zoned land is several parcels to the south, also fronting on Van Dyke. So we don't have an existing district directly abutting this site to expand. If you have any questions or discussion you'd like to engage in on that, I'm happy to entertain.
Joe, to your knowledge, is there a consideration for storage, indoor storage or outdoor storage of travel trailers, vehicles of that type?
The specifics of how the site would operate as a storage facility have not been discussed to date.
I think I heard you say relative to traffic, you made a statement that it would not, something like this would not generate a lot of traffic, additional traffic to Van Dyke.
Generally speaking, self-storage facilities, in terms of their daily operation, are very low traffic uses. Now, if there were some sort of outdoor component, like boat or RV storage or something like that, you may have particular times of the year where activity is a little heavier as people come get their items, because there are kind of concentrated times of the year when that might happen. But even then, it's not likely to be a massive amount of traffic for the size of the site.
Based upon what assumption? Because I live in the area, right? Not right there. And Friday, Thursday night, starting Thursday night, Friday, there's a lot of northbound traffic.
Oh, sure there is.
And Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, it's the opposite coming back. And as a camper, I'm not biased for or against, just a recognition that I would question whether there isn't an increase in traffic at certain times, specifically weekends, if there's going to be that kind of storage. So there is nothing specified saying that there will be or will not be. And I think there's nothing that I can see that says thou shalt not. Is that correct?
No, there's not at this point. So that's a discussion item for you and the applicant. As to what their intentions are there. The assertions about traffic that I'm making are based on International Transportation Engineering, the Institute of Transportation Engineers data, which shows these facilities generally to be very low traffic. But again, we don't know necessarily what the operational characteristics are.
Okay, thank you.
Similar but different, Joe, where the traffic, on-site activity. Do you have an opinion whether inside storage as compared to outside storage, whether there's a different level of activity?
There's definitely a different visual impact. And as far as the off-site impacts, indoor activity is generally less likely to have any impact off the site than outdoor activity. That's certainly true. As far as the type of activity that might be occurring on the site with indoor storage versus outdoor storage, it depends a little bit on how the ownership deals with anything that's happening outdoors. So having very clear rules about, if you drop your RV off in RV storage, that you're not also opening up the hood and fixing it in the yard. Generally speaking, that would be a violation of your lease for most of these facilities. But that's obviously something that we would want to discuss.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about is that I'm not sure where the break point is, style of vehicle or gross vehicle weight rating, but some vehicles are required to have backup alarms.
Sure.
They're
sure.
regulated, and as such, you can't turn them off. So with open storage towards the rear and towards Elkhorn Estates, that there is a possibility that, there could be loud backup alarms back there.
Yes, if there is.
Hitching up trailers.
Yeah, if there is outdoor storage of such vehicles, and of course we don't know that at this point, but if there were to be that kind of storage, yes, you may have some backup.
Well, the indoor storage doesn't necessarily have to be 100% either boats or vehicles versus the outdoor storage is a variant of a vehicle. Whether it's self-propelled or whether it's towed,
Sure.
requiring hookup to another vehicle, banging around with safety chains, stuff like that. I'm trying to look at it as if I lived over there.
Sure.
So, anyway.
I have a question, Joe. Is there anything offered up at this point with respect to fencing along that, what would be the rear property line?
As I noted, fencing isn't specifically addressed in the written conditions. The applicant did imply that fencing, he thought fencing was one of their conditions, so maybe offering that. We do have requirements for that as well. So there are basic screening requirements, and the way I read these conditions is that this demands of the township phrasing they'd be willing to comply with enhanced screening requirements. And that's how I'm reading it. Confirm that that's what they mean.
Also, there was I'm going to call it a conceptual site plan submitted in July. Are we still going with that as the basic intended layout?
It was not specifically included with the application this time, but that is something that we could ask the applicant if they're still looking at that same basic idea.
Also, a property of this size, and given the fact that it's not basements or anything, it's kind of surface level, but it's a lot of property, what kind of drainage and, water management would be required on a piece like that?
There would definitely have to be some on-site retention.
Their own?
Yeah, and they will have to have it on-site, and they will have to construct it. And that would be based on the engineering standards of the township. So this would be subject to engineering review if it got through site plan review.
Thank you.
Joe, given that this is greater than 5 acres as a rezoning request, is an impact study required?
Typically, it would be, yes, over 5 acres.
So my second question is, given that we know what the conditions are that are being offered, does the planning commission have the option to waive that requirement?
We do have some ability to waive or modify the requirements of our development impact statement.
Thank you.
Just so the commissioners know, there was an opportunity last week where Mike and I and Supervisor Philbrook had a chance to meet with the applicant and a few residents from the subdivision directly behind where this proposed development is, including the homeowner association president. So in that meeting, there was a chance for the resident to hear, or the applicant to hear from some of the affected residents and what types of concerns they have, and also what types of proposed conditions might help alleviate their concerns if this was to get approved. And I do believe that's where we see some of these conditions that have been offered up to alleviate some of those concerns. Anything I missed on that, Mike?
No, I think you hit it. I think it was also a chance for the applicant to share his vision of what the property would look like, too. It was an exchange.
Yeah. So if there's no other questions for Joe, would make a motion to open the public hearing at 7:25.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Motion by Kupitz, second by Anne Marie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing is open. So if anyone is here to speak on the Van Dyke rezoning request, please come up to the podium and state your name and address and let us know what you have to say.
Good evening. Thomas McMullen, 75699 Elkhorn Drive. So I was one of the few residents that did have the opportunity to meet with Roger Walker, who was kind enough to give us his time last week, and we appreciate that. But as I sit here and listen to what's happening this evening, what I'm hearing is we don't have a new conceptual drawing. We're still operating under the premise of the rendering that was submitted that shows a mix of indoor and outdoor, which is, starkly different from what Mr. Walker represented in this face-to-face meeting, that his intention is to construct a facility 100% indoor. Clearly, an objection of those of us that live in Elkhorn Estates is the outdoor storage aspect. And, the various things that, I believe it was you, Mr. Hagelstein, that, talked about the backup alarms, talked about the hooking up and of the chains and the coming and the going and all of the nuisance that would come with that. So, we walked away from a meeting the other night with a pretty good feeling that, Roger Walker is going to change that up. He's going to, what he submitted for consideration is not what it was before. That it's going to be all buildings, it's all going to be high-end stuff inside, probably attract a better class of folks that aren't going to be bringing ratty old trucks and nasty stuff there. But we also then talked about the conditions. And we were actually encouraged to come up with a list of conditions, which I know myself, I shared a bunch with Mr. Santilli, and I know that some of my neighbors did the same. And I've not seen what he sent you, but I know that certainly myself, I came up with like 8 or 10. And the only ones that I'm hearing a general reference out of Dan Walker of building a berm to the township specifications, that's too vague. We were talking about heights of berms, what's reasonable and feasible, depending on the species of tree and the size of tree that's planted. But this lack of specificity as to what we're talking about here leaves me uneasy as a resident, and it should leave the board uneasy, that he's asking you to change a zoning which is a deviation from the master plan, which was before this board before, who unanimously said, no, we're not going to do it. And then here we are again. Well, it was certainly communicated to us that something's going to happen, something's going in there. It's not going to stay a farm field for long, and even suggesting that we might have to look at a bunch of ugly buildings from the worm farmer because he wants to move his operation over. I don't like the worm farmer's buildings. I can't stand seeing them from the back of my house. And I've got probably 40 acres between me and him, and some trees that occasionally will throw some foliage to block it. I don't think the folks that live directly abutting that property want the worm farm, but I think we're also being, given a message that this is going to happen. So come to this meeting and, let your feelings be heard. Mr. Walker's a reasonable guy, but Daniel's up here telling you, we'll put up a fence. What kind of fence? I know in the conditions that I proposed that I don't know exactly what Mr. Santilli sent you, but, I said very specific, an aluminum commercial fence, something that actually has some class. None of this, cyclone fence with barbed wire on it. I don't think the folks on Bugle Lake that back up to it should have to look at such a thing. I talked about heights of buildings. I had a lot of concerns about lighting. The last couple of nights with all the cloud decks that we've, low cloud decks and the lights coming off of the commercials along 53, huge orange glow. So I proposed, make it a condition that if there's going to be lighting, can it be motion? So that it's only going on when folks are going in and out and, but I'm not hearing any of these things. So I think, with the lack of a clear plan before this board and a drawing and agreement and some real conditions, something that's not vague, I think you're moving too soon. I think Mr. Walker needs to clean it up and, make some assurances that he actually heard what we had to say. Because he certainly, I had the impression that he heard us and that he was serious, but this is also being rushed. We walked away from that meeting the other night that this was going to probably get tabled till after the new year to give him a little time to actually give some serious consideration. We took our time. We came here, certainly it was, our interest. I'm going to wrap it up.
Yep, okay, thank you.
But, I believe you owe me that. And I don't back up directly to it, but I'm close enough. And I'm a new resident, 2 years in. If you're going to allow it just to, approve this based on I'm trying to think of the right terms, but you have an incomplete plan before you, and you should not be making an approval until it's clear and the conditions are clearly stated and they're reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Hi.
And I'll just reiterate target this as a 3-minute time frame if you can, please.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
My name is Ken Briggs. I'm at 75-189 Van Dyke. I am the property right across the street from the proposed development. When I moved to Bruce Township in 2016, one of the reasons why I came here the second time, because I lived in Bruce Township back in 2000, was the fact that I was surrounded by farm fields. It was agricultural, though I am on M53. If I would have known that something like this was going to occur, I probably wouldn't have bought it, to be honest with you. I feel that my home values are going to be lowered because of it. I feel that my property, I'm not the only one, of course, but I feel that I'm going to be most affected by this. And I'm with the other gentleman about, proper planning. I want you to imagine for a half a second, close your eyes. I want you to wake up in the morning, get your favorite morning beverage, come out to your living room, open up your curtains to enjoy the sun, and then you see that. Would you want that in your front yard? It's 30 yards away from my driveway, or less. Okay? I do believe there's going to be an impact on traffic. I live there every single day. It takes 10 to 15 minutes for my kids to get out in the morning to go to school. And these are all things that I understand. I happen to go north on Fridays just like a lot of other people do. And it's backed up all the time. Accidents like crazy at Ebbling Road. This may have no effect on it. But you pull a boat out going left or an RV going left, I guarantee you're going to have an accident or two, maybe more. Okay? I understand a lot of you guys probably already have your mind made up about this. I just want to put it on record that I am opposed.
All right, thank you. Yeah, come on up.
I'm Kim Schollenberger, and I live at 12295 12295 Bugle Lake Drive. I'm directly behind what's going on. And I was in the meeting that Tom was in with a few of you. And I just wanted to say that I was under the impression that there was going to be some legal and binding contract of some sort between the city and you guys with our input first before any final decisions were made. And we were going to have an example of that sent that's already a public record. And I've never seen it at this point, but Jim is out right now, of course, who is representing us. I just feel as if this is moving to the point where Tom said that it is moving, that I wasn't under the impression it was going to be moving this fast without our input and your input. You know, are things going on here without us knowing about it? I don't like that. We just built $1 million home right behind there, and this is very upsetting. So I hope that you guys can follow through with what you talked about in our private meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I clarify a couple things that were stated there? One is no decision has been made, so if you're getting nervous over something that hasn't been done yet. Number two is if you want to look at an example of a conditional zoning, we didn't say we were going to send it to you. We said it was available on the Bruce Township webpage. If you look under board, agenda and minutes, look to the July 23 board packet, you will find a conditional zoning agreement for some condominium development. So to give you an example of what that looks like legally.
September.
Was it September? Okay, it's been correct. It's September 2023. It's available on our website if you want to take a look at what a conditional zoning agreement looks like.
Mike, you're referring to 156 East Gates?
Correct.
Okay.
And thank you, Anne Marie.
Yeah, he was approved in July, and then you guys worked on the legalities, and that came before
Okay, so
the board.
the contract came back in September. Okay.
Right, so even if this were to be approved, the contract wouldn't be available for some time after, because it would still have to, that would come later.
Whatever gets approved would be put into a legal document. The legal document would come before us and the board.
Okay. Okay, any other comments on this rezoning request?
Excuse me. Yes, my name's Ed Marino. I live at 75298 Elkhorn Drive. And I wrote you guys a letter, about 2.5 pages long. I've dropped it in the Dropbox here last Saturday. I just wanted to make sure that you received it because that's all my input that is in there. And a lot of it, Tom and I were next door neighbors in Sterling Heights. We moved out here, had the same builder and everything else. And like I said in the letter, I likely would have moved to Lapeer. I talked to him about moving to Lapeer because I think we didn't move far enough out. But if something like this was to happen, I'm sure that all of you people too would not want something like that in your backyard. And when you guys vote on something like this, you should take consideration of the people that live behind there. Treat it like it is your own property before you go ahead and vote on something like this. Thank you.
And just to confirm, Ed, we did receive the letter.
Okay, thank you.
Dana, as normal protocol, any written correspondence would get into the record, correct?
Yes. And it is, it's on the website.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Matt Power, live on Elkhorn 75504, and I just wanted to state as well, the first gentleman who spoke, I think that, you know, a master plan really should be presented to the people, especially of Elkhorn, and people who live right out in front of it, to see exactly what's going to go there. We can't really, you know, go on a whim and then all of a sudden everything, this is what we got, you know. We really should be able to see what's going to go in there officially. You know, we, on Elkhorn, or just it states there, you know, we have our bylaws and rules where there's no, you're not allowed campers or anything visually, and that's to keep the neighborhood nice. You know, now if we have some kind of outdoor storage right behind us, visually that's going to be pretty awful, you know, looking. We have a private lake. Now, that's for the residents. We pay our money to stock the lake, to feed the fish, and that's for us only. Now, if this does go through and there's no fence, you know, maybe people can access our subdivision through that area. You know, so, you know, I personally, and I know others in the sub would definitely like a fence, but also it's got to be nice, berm, trees, whatnot. But we all would like to see exactly what's going to be there, you know, before we just rush through and this is what it is and something pops up. So just wanted to state that. And, you know, of course, with the lighting as well, you know, we can walk outside and see the stars and then now it's, you know, going to be neon. So that's very concerning as well. And, you know, I know there's a few people here from the sub tonight, but everybody talking in the sub, I think we all feel pretty much the same way. So, okay.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, seeing no one else coming up, I make a motion to close the public hearing at 7:41 PM.
Second.
Seconded by Hagelstein. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, it's back to the commissioners.
I've got a few items. I think the commission would likely recall that I asked Dan a question when he originally presented if he would consider doing 100% enclosed storage. I don't know the exact words, but basically paraphrasing, I believe was something close to this, that shouldn't be a problem. So I am concerned that with the present state of the application, still shows outside storage. And I've already stated at a high level what some of my noise concerns are. And in answer to one of the people that came up and spoke about we should be looking at this as if we live there. I can assure everybody here that every issue I deal with, and I believe my fellow commissioners as well, that's our starting point. We look at if we lived in your neighborhood. You may not like the end result, but we have to deal with multiple concerns. It's not just the concerns that you bring forward, but it is a high priority. As if we live there, we listen to you, and that is a factor in our decision-making process. Regarding lighting, for the past 20-plus years, Bruce Township has had one of the most restrictive lighting ordinances in the country, and that came about as a result of a development that was nearby my house, and I brought it to the former clerk's attention, and she saw merit in it, and her and Paul Okanowski took that on, and that became our lighting ordinance. So the lighting, whatever happens out there, you shouldn't see anything any brighter than what you see at Fiddler's Cove. All closeout fixtures, all downward facing lights. And something's going to happen with that property, whether it be the expansion of Great Lakes hornworm or whether it is the storage facility. I've already stated my preference. I'd like to see it 100% enclosed, but correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't heard any appetite for that being developed into R1 residential.
The applicant has not had any people come up to him wanting to build that residential. True.
Okay.
That's what my understanding is.
That's all I got.
I'd like to ask Dan or Roger, whichever one wants to come and speak, address some questions.
Drawing straws.
Dan, we met with your dad and some representatives from Elkhorn, had, I thought, a pretty constructive conversation. One of the things we talked about that was the vagueness of the current conditions that were there and some of the lack of timing. And perhaps tabling and maybe creating a small, and I mean small, not everybody, but a small committee that maybe could work together to see if we could get to some conditions that would be appealing to some of the neighbors and appealing to you as the applicant. Is that still an appetite for you guys?
I guess I have two parts to that. One is, when we came the first time, I at the time went to the HOA meeting. So whatever happened last week, that's not the first time. We did receive, I think it was 3 or 4 emails that were forwarded to us. Very wide range of things that hypothetically would be done. And then the second part of that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a little while since I've sat there, but hypothetically speaking, if this were approved tonight, I can't do anything until there's a site plan done, right?
That is correct.
So although there are some conditions that we offered, I personally don't think that any condition that we offered couldn't have been pretty much mandated during site plan. We know we can't have a barbed wire fence. We know it's not allowed. We know that the lighting plan is going to be subject to Bruce Township's ordinance, which Rick's properly stated is very, very restrictive. One of the most, frequent comments in the comments that were submitted to us was a desire to move the detention pond towards the front of the property, which I think all of you would be like, yeah, we can't do that. So it's kind of maybe one of those, like, what's going to change? I'm not going to put a site plan together before I have a site plan review. Right. So.
Yeah, the first step is getting a zoning change, and you've offered some conditional zoning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to go over what I heard today and from the prior meeting as concerns about the public that may or may not be able to be addressed by you guys. I mean, I would think that any type of conditions that would be offered would be reasonable conditions, and maybe some of the requests may be unreasonable in your eyes, and you guys wouldn't want to propose those. But I've heard concerns about traffic, indoor-outdoor mix, or just all outdoor, fencing, noise, lighting, the vagueness of the current conditions, and basically some timing. Don't rush it, make sure we get it right. Would you guys be willing to table and establish a small committee that would have a goal and maybe a limited time frame to get together And, because in the end, it's up to you guys to propose conditions to us that we either can accept or reject or ask to be modified or whatever, but in the end, you guys are the ones that do it.
I guess before I answer that, the one,
Because we did have a pretty good, open and honest exchange, and I
Yep.
thought, I've walked away from that meeting feeling that we potentially could get to a place that worked for most people.
understood. I guess maybe outside of the indoor-outdoor split, you know, I don't know what conditions we can offer that I guess you wouldn't already control. You're going to control the fence height. We had one of the people who submitted something wanted a 15-foot berm with tree. I mean, that's not going to happen. I mean, I don't think you guys
So
would.
that would
want
be
to
something that
happen.
you guys would deem unreasonable, but you could propose some.
But I think
berming.
you would. But I think you would deem.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
Right.
I see that.
Yeah. So, but again, correct me if I'm wrong. If this were just any regular M1 proposal, going into site plan, these are all things that you would control anyways, correct?
Not necessarily.
No?
Where the berming might occur and how high the trees.
So we want
lighting,
something that's like.
Mixed versus indoor, outdoor.
Yeah, the mix, right. I said that. But you would control the lighting plan.
Fencing is something that you could propose. And I think the other thing I said was the visual, that the visual could address by whatever berming or treeing, or whatever works.
Yeah.
I think the main point I'm saying is, are you guys open to tabling and at least for some period of time exploring some discussion with a small group of people to see if we can get to something? Then as a result of that, I think you guys hold the ball is to say, okay, I've heard all this, what can I come back with? And a lot of it is if you can come back with something that's palatable, is ironing out the details.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Because I would be in favor of tabling if you guys were open to doing that and establishing a committee tonight of who would be on it. And then at one point in time, would it come back here with a revised set of conditions perhaps?
Okay.
You guys are good with that, Roger?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. And I would say that you guys are pretty reasonable for the most part, so.
Thanks.
But in the end, it's up to you guys.
No, I understand that. Yep.
Okay.
So, okay.
So I think we should, what do the planning commissioners feel before I take this any further? Is there an appetite for that?
Yes, there is.
Well,
Okay.
I have a question. If we have a few empty farm fields that are R1 now, and we rezone this, aren't we opening the door for all of those properties to come in for rezoning requests?
We could, but if you attach enough conditions, you create a unique circumstance for that piece of property that works.
I'm not
And-
seeing any unique circumstances presented.
Being that it's only can be an outdoor storage or a storage facility alone is a unique condition.
Outdoor conditions with a bunch of other conditions, plus you have to consider what's neighboring. There's a potential that the bug farm, they've had entertainment from the bug farm wanting to buy that land. I think another thing is education. Basically, myself and Jared got an education, is we took a ride around here to see what kind of actual stuff is going on M53. And there is a lot of mixed stuff in here. It may be zoned residential, but you've got a rock pile, you've got a bug farm, you got biogenetics, you got Romeo Rim toy products. So there's, in a dog kennel. So it's not residential today. And I thought about your question, would we be opening it up for M3? In fact, when I was here the last time, that was one of my concerns about opening up M53. So you have to look at what's changed. What's changed is I became more educated on the actual what's going on. Number two, the applicant has offered some conditions. Number 3, we actually had a meeting with some of the people, and we had a positive meeting. We felt that there may be a way to go forward to create conditions that would work for the township, for the people, and for the development. In the end, not everybody's going to be happy. If you can create something, and I think the risk of furthering rezoning of M1 becomes a small risk, minimal risk, if any. So that's my view.
Comment. Towards Mandy's response to what Mandy said, that, if this is allowed to go to M1 conditionally, that would be the standard that, there's going to be some other property further south, and we know which one is likely, the Rock Farm, okay? So, and there is some outdoor storage towards the rear of the property that's, depending on what conditions that would be a part of this application, if that applicant, or if that property owner wanted to come with a similar M1 in order to get his M1 zoning, and just hypothetically speaking, if the Walkers were to agree to 100% indoor storage, there's a condition of that other property owner, he would have to put all his equipment indoors or put it elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a hypothetical, far-fetched.
Hypothetical, but, thinking down the road.
Yeah, I think that's a far-fetched.
But there's nothing, we can't cite blight because that operation is under agribusiness. And that's agricultural equipment. He's allowed to take and do what he wants with it on the property regardless of what anybody thinks about it.
And I think I'm going to add another thing that the Planning Commission and the board has already thought about, is that if you look at the history of Bruce Township, we used to have a larger industrial district in this township. At one time, it was 33 all the way to 34 Mile Road. All the stuff that was annexed up and down Powell Road, the Ford plant, was all industrial for Bruce Township. Our footprint for industrial for Bruce Township, the footprint has shrunk considerably from the beginning. My opinion, is some of the opinion of the board members, is we probably need to expand our M1 district to get a better balance between residential and industrial and commercial in this township.
You want to elaborate why? Because the difference in taxation?
Well, the reality is that industrial customers pay more than they receive in benefits. So it actually helps the residential customers keep their taxes at a reasonable level, where residential consumes more services than what they pay typically.
And you kind of went over it pretty fast, but the Powell Road used to be Bruce Township. And when the sewer district was expanded, the Village of Romeo owns the waste treatment plant, so they annexed Powell Road. So.
And the annexed part of 33.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
The first 1,000 feet coming westward.
And the township many years ago rezoned some of the property at the south of 34 away from industrial. And then, just to add some more history, that 33 Mile Road where the medical facilities are at and west was all industrial at one point. So our footprint has just, so there's another concern, is the economic future of the township.
And for our township to remain viable, we need to be able
to remain healthy, to keep
healthy
tax base
financially,
reasonable.
Because if not, we become an increased risk of being annexed by surrounding communities.
And that's just one point of many to consider.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to the original, is that you guys are all kind of have an appetite, most of you, for the tabling. So I would suggest that we establish tonight a committee and put a time frame for that committee.
Great
to
idea.
Come back, or for the applicant to come back based on the results of what they.
I think Dan's agreed, Roger's agreed, so want to submit a motion? Or?
Well, before I submit a motion, I want some names for the committee. And I would think Dan, Roger, or both from the applicant side, Roger, one or two people from some of the neighbors to get input, either Elkhorn or across the street. I think Jim Santilli is the homeowner or president.
Yep.
So I would think one or two, and then at least one from our planning commission, or two, one or two.
I would very much like to see somebody from the west side of Van Dyke be involved in that, if you are going to involve residents. Because although Elkhorn is established, and they're there, and they will most certainly be impacted.
Okay, so let's get some names.
I don't have names of people who live on the other side of Van Dyke, except for this gentleman.
Would you be willing to serve on that committee?
Absolutely, I would.
Yeah. What's your name again?
Ken?
Briggs.
Briggs?
Yep, right across the street.
Yeah.
I think he would bring a different viewpoint.
I know Jim's not here. Would you guys from Elkhorn be willing to have Jim serve?
Yes.
Did Jim express a desire to serve, I think?
Oh, I'm sure he would definitely do it.
Like the records show, the audience said yes.
Who on the planning commission?
You're looking my way?
Well, I'm looking both ways. I would rather not, because I know Dan, I know Roger. I know a lot, but I would prefer that someone else. One or two planning commissioners other than myself.
I think it should be 2 planning commissioners.
Yeah.
I've been on subcommittees before. I can do it.
You and I served on a subcommittee.
Yep.
Early on.
So, I've got some passions about this, but I just, I don't want to take and always be me.
Well, who else
So-
is interested?
Yeah.
Randy?
I'll do it.
Does anybody else have an interest that?
Unless Anne
Feels
Marie wanted
surprised.
to do it. She's new. She's capable. It's up to you. If you don't want to do it, I'll
Randy?
do it.
I'm still breastfeeding
I'm
my
fine
daughter,
not
so
to go
my
in
time
this one.
is
Get it,
Okay.
I get
very
it.
limited.
Okay, so I'm sorry. We got 2?
Well, if someone has a burning desire to do it, we don't want to deprive them of it either.
No. Well, Anne Marie said she would defer, so. So do we have our 2? It's Randy and I?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll make my motion. I'll make a motion to table this to allow a small committee to discuss the conditions with the applicant, and I think the committee should include the applicant, Roger and Dan, or both, whatever they prefer. Ken Briggs, Jim Santilli, Randy Cant, and Rick Hagelstein.
Interject. In the past, Phil Brook has sat in on these. No?
No, because
Okay.
the board will make the ultimate decision. He should not be, we are the
Recommending body?
yeah, we do the heavy lifting for the
Okay.
board.
All right.
And then we make a recommendation. It wouldn't be right for Mike to sit on.
Okay.
And I'd like to put a time frame on there. No later than February. Roger, Dan, February? Because we have the holidays coming up, the next meeting is January. So no later than the February PC meeting. And you guys would come back with a revised set of conditions that you guys would offer up based on what you guys feel. Okay. Yes.
May not be part of the motion, but there was discussion previously about whether or not an impact statement would be required. You suggested that the commission has the opportunity to
I could include it in the motion.
give a pass on that. I don't know what everybody else feels.
I think, personally, I don't think we need one because we know what it is. And we've already had our professional planner state based on his experience that it'd be minimal impact.
And a big part of that.
There's no impact to utilities.
Yeah, no impact to sewer and water.
No.
And traffic, we've already discussed that. Those are the big 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can include it in the motion. I'll include it.
That we reserve the right, or that we are waiving?
That will waive it.
The only one that I disagree with is the impact on traffic. I think there is going to be impact on traffic. It's not a conclusion, an assumption that I'm going to agree with.
Could we waive, or would we consider waiving the impact statement, but requiring something traffic-wise?
Ed, I've got feedback for you. Okay, currently it's zoned R1. Do you feel that R1 residential, if it were built out, is currently zoned, as compared to a storage facility, that would be more or less traffic on a daily basis?
On a daily basis. You're asking for a ceiling as opposed to actual.
Hypothetical, Ed.
Hypothetically, you're going to bring more people into an area because they're going to be looking for storage. People who are not there today. As opposed to me and all my neighbors store there and we're the only ones. Well, that's zero, right? Hard to say.
I'm just, excuse me for interrupting, I'm just talking about vehicles.
Yeah, I know.
Coming and going.
I know. I think there's going to be more. and I
I'll make this
cannot-
simple. I'll take that off the motion. I'll make my motion simple.
So we're not waiving the impact statement?
We'll do that in February. We can talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think
I
we have
just
to make
want to
that decision
establish,
tonight.
I want to establish a committee. We have a committee's names. Ken, could you leave your name and address, contact information? And you have Dan and Roger's information, Dan?
Yes, I do. Did you sign in?
I did. My phone number's not on there, but you and I have communicated.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll leave my motion without the impact study. I don't want to add any more confusion.
Okay.
Do we need it read back, or does everybody know it?
Anybody need
No one
clarification on it?
seconded it.
What's that?
No one seconded it at this point.
Right.
I'll second. Do we need clarification?
Dana, do you want to just read that back to us so we make sure we got it right?
Table to allow a small committee to discover the conditions with, yeah, it's pretty vague. I got to include the developer, time frame being no later than February PC meeting, to come back with a revised set of conditions, impact study.
Just
No,
ignore
take
that whole impact.
Take that
statement.
off. But include the names of the committee.
Oh, yes, I do have that. Jim Santilli, Ken Briggs, Roger Walker, Randy Cant,
And Rick Higglestein.
and Rick Hayes.
You put Dan or Roger, and let them decide, who or both.
All right, we have a motion by Tremblay. Is there a second? Seconded by Kupitz. Is a roll call? Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Cant,
Yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
Barnett,
Yes.
Tremblay,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Cupits.
Yes.
I'll say yes.
Okay. Motion carries.
Thanks, guys.
Has been tabled. Thank you. All right. Moving on, the agenda, next item of public hearing.
Hang on, before everybody goes. You guys know, I'll understand what the next steps are going to happen here.
I do.
So what'll happen is, at the February meeting, no later than the February meeting, we're going to reconvene. So if you guys want to be part of that, come back to the February planning commission meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the second item on the agenda, public hearings for outdoor storage. Do we have an overview from Joe on this, or is it?
Yeah,
Yeah, we do. Is that the 1026?
you're talking about the date on the memo, yeah. And then there's also an amending ordinance showing the final language.
Yep.
Which, as noted earlier, it should be section 4.39, not 4.40. But basically what we've done here is we've taken a section that was extremely specific to kind of large-scale vehicle storage and kind of reapplied it to all outdoor storage in commercial and industrial zoning districts. So that we have some standards there, which we don't really have right now. Really just kind of looking to preserve the character and aesthetic quality of those districts into the future. We know that there will be a need for some outdoor activity, especially in our industrial areas. And we are looking to make sure that where that does occur, it is properly screened and we have the right kind of surfacing, and that we're really trying to make it predictable for people in the area. And there were a couple of revisions to the text based on our discussion last time. I guess if anybody has any further questions, we can talk about them.
Yeah, Joe, at one time we had discussed 4.39B, 4 and 5, that those, if they exceed the parameters in section 4.39B2, that it requires special land use.
Right.
I don't see that in here.
Or in 4 and 5.
It says in 4 and 5 that it's subject to special land use approval
Do I
if
not
it
have
exceeds
the current
those.
one?
Right at the end.
You have to look at the amending ordinance version with the final language.
It's in your packet. Here, I have an extra one, I think.
It is? Oh, I didn't, is that in my packet? I didn't see it.
Maybe I got yours.
Oh,
I don't know. I have
you got two of them?
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, but basically what it says
at
is outdoor storage of living plant material, et cetera, exceeding the area limitations set forth in item 2 above shall be subject to special land use approval. And then the same for the next item is outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment for sale, where as permitted exceeding the area limitations set forth in item 2 above shall be subject to.
So that implies if it doesn't, that it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good. I'm good with this.
Any other questions or items of clarification for Joe before we open up the public hearing? With that, I make a motion to open up the public hearing at 8:12. Is there a second? Motion by Vincent, second by Barnett to open the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, the public hearing is now open for the outdoor storage ordinance amendment. If you are here to speak on that, please come up to the podium. Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public hearing at 8:12. Seconded by Barnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we would need a motion to amend the ordinance 161-4.39 to the board for recommendation.
For adoption, yep.
For adoption.
Okay, I'll make the motion. to
All right.
Amend the ordinance 161-4.39 as outlined.
Yeah, your motion should be as a recommendation to the board. I'll second that motion.
All right, motion by Barnett,
So then
seconded,
you capture it as a recommendation to the board, okay?
Yes.
motion by Barnett, seconded by Tremblay. Danny, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Anne Marie Boyce,
Yes.
Mike Tremblay,
Yes.
Mandy Barnett,
Yes.
Randy Cant,
Yes.
Ed Cupits,
Yes.
Rick Hagelstein,
Yes.
Jared Vincent.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, that wraps up the public hearings for this evening. Item 8 is reviews. I don't believe we have any, so we will be moving on to communications. Also none. Brings us to item 10A, 72-100 Lassier Special Land Use Request.
We have pictures and we have letters from our neighbors.
Okay,
Do you want me to just give them to Dana? Or?
sure, that'd be great.
Okay. And we have neighbors here too.
Hi, Dorothy.
Hi.
Are we ready to rock?
So I believe when we met last time, we gave you a chance to table this item, go back and kind of think about the options as was discussed. So love to hear kind of what you've thought about since then.
Well, I wish to apologize to the board because I didn't understand exactly what we were doing. The building, the outbuilding, I thought was my garage. I've been parking in it for, 10 years now, and I thought it was a garage, and we proposed to put an outbuilding up. I did not realize that the outbuilding that I've been parking in is not a garage, it's my outbuilding. So I've kind of gone over it, and I went down and found the regulations at the building department, and I discovered that we're allowed with 4 acres, 1,700-foot outbuilding. The building that I have right now measures 26 by 40, which is 1,040 square feet. So really, I'm allowed to build onto that 660 more square feet. So being that I applied for the variance, I want to make this variance, I want to put instead of 25 by 26, which I can build right onto that garage, I want to do a 30 by 30 on the garage that exists, on the outbuilding that exists right now. I want it varied to a 30 by 30 so I can put on all the things, for my storage, and I work in the garage. I work on my cars. I work on furniture. I have a little wood shop in there. When I jam the boat in there, I put the propeller shaft right through the back of the garage, and my wife was not happy. That's why I need the 30 to add that little extra where I can walk all the way around the boat instead of having it pressed against the door and against the back of the garage. And that's the variance that I require now. We don't need I can understand that it's only 240 feet now than what I can actually build on without permission. I can understand that discovering that what I thought was my garage is an outbuilding, you guys had some hesitations on building another outbuilding. I do understand the ramifications of that. So let's have a reverse and let me have 30 by 30 on the outbuilding that I have there.
All right, so let me just repeat that back to you to make sure we're all in sync on what you're asking. So
I would like to build 900 square foot onto the building that I have, which would be a variance of 240 square foot, as opposed to what I can build. I'm asking you to give me that little more so I have that extra room to stick all the stuff in the garage, keep it out of my way, and allow me more work room on my hobbies and my recreational stuff.
Okay.
Can I interject something that
Yes,
the
you may.
applicant didn't bring up that I am aware of?
Okay.
They do not have an attached garage.
Correct.
To their principal residence.
That's correct.
Okay, and the reason this is, so we're all on the same page, the reason that this is designated an accessory building is it's too far away from the principal structure.
By 20 feet, I think.
Yep.
If it was 20 foot closer, then
That
I'd
is
go
right.
for the 40 by 40, which would really, put me in lots of room.
Yep.
That's 14% to 240, it's 14%, just so you're aware. I know that we typically discuss what percentage we're over. And I just wanted to be clear that 240 feet would be 14%.
The existing square feet of your building, is that the enclosed structure?
Yes.
So it doesn't include the overhang on the north end of the building?
The chicken coop? No, that's not, I can,
my chicken
that's
run.
the chicken run.
As part of our ordinance, the gross floor area, I'm going to quote, it's 161.5.1. Gross floor area of an accessory building shall include any area covered by a roof, including but not limited to eaves and overhangs in excess of 18 inches.
That's not over cement, that's over dirt.
Doesn't matter. It's part of that building.
I'm still looking for the 30 by 30 variance.
So
if it's-
what's the square footage of that
So if we move
overhang
our
area?
chicken coop and the chicken run, it's not an issue. But if we leave the chicken run where we can see it from the house and watch our chickens, because we
As
like
long as that
to-
overhang exists, it's considered part of the square
Well,
footage.
if I
of the
take the
building.
overhang down, are you gonna come shovel it? Because I shoveled it for 2 years, I'm done shoveling it.
I don't know if we're discussing
I'm
my
sorry.
shoveling duties, but
sorry.
I'm just trying to explain to you the rules, because we've had experience in this township where we've had those overhangs and later they become enclosed.
Okay.
So this ordinance was changed during my tenure to address that fact. So we can't ignore that square footage as part of the calculation.
But it is not, it's not the square footage, it's not enclosed, and it's not going to
I'm
be
reading the ordinance.
enclosed.
The ordinance doesn't matter whether it's enclosed or not. There's an overhang in excess of 18 inches that extends beyond the building.
So if I cut 18 inches off that chicken run,
No, you can't cut 18 inches off, because I'm sure that, how far out does it go from the building? 8 feet, 10 feet?
11 feet.
Then you'd have to cut off 9.5
It
feet.
can only be 18 inches, but if we move the.
You'd have to cut off
coop down-
9.5 feet.
What if I move the whole thing away from there?
As long as that is part of the structure, it's considered part of the square footage of the,
Well, I could post it and make it not of the structure.
what do you mean by posted?
It's attached to the back of the garage. We
Separated
use the
into its
back
own.
wall of the
Move it
garage.
somewhere else on the
Separate.
property.
What do you mean, move it somewhere?
Yeah, the run is actually
Just
staked
move it over.
inside. I just had them put the lid over, so I didn't have to shovel my run every winter. It's not fun shoveling it out there.
Yeah, the only way that would be considered a 14% over is if that didn't exist.
Then,
But with their size property, they can have 2 buildings.
That's correct.
But-
still
But of
can't
course,
exceed
it's
7.
cumulative square foot.
Right, yeah.
So it's, yeah, okay.
But, and I don't know that I've seen it, but a chicken coop in and of itself is not an accessory building.
No, but here's
He's
the
talking
point.
about the
We
run.
had,
But I understand it says it's part of the building and there's an overhang. I understand.
well, we're looking for a variance. Vary it from there then.
but the variance becomes larger because the footprint that you described of the existing building is not accurate according to our ordinance.
Then,
How long is your building east to west?
40 feet.
40 feet? So it's 40 times 11, that's 440 square feet additional that should have to be considered as part of the existing structure.
We have to move the chicken coop.
So you really,
That
you're looking at a
refers to-
variance, you're looking at a variance with no change of 680 square feet, which is considerably different than 240.
well,
But I mean, I'm listening to, what are you guys proposing to do with that?
I would just as soon leave it there and get the variance for the 900 square feet.
Well, the variance would be 680 square feet would be the
Okay.
variance you'd be
For
seeking.
for the 680 square feet. It's, why move it? It's convenient. It's convenient for me. You're here to help me.
We are also here to make,
And it's not, all the neighbors laughed at me. They said, build whatever you want. And there's neighbors right next door.
and if we let everybody build what they want, they
But
would.
that's why you call it a variance. You're allowing it or you're not. They're not gonna come to you and say, well, Dave built this. Each individual has their ask.
Precedent is a word that always comes to mind.
Precedent.
I know I don't have a vote, but when they first approached me, I was looking at it differently than you guys are. I was thinking thinking the variance would be the fact that it's so many feet. It doesn't meet the ordinance just in the fact that it's more feet away from the house than what is allowed. Not so much that, you know, the square footage of it, it's just the placement of their garage or accessory building is, unfortunately, it's too far from the house, but with almost 5 acres or 4.5 acres, it seems like, you know, I don't know, I thought it was reasonable for them to ask for the variance to be this, that you allow the square foot, or the distance away from the house to be the variance. You know what I mean? And to allow that, okay, because they fit all the other criteria as far as, you know, the size, that it's just, if they're garage.
I think the only variance we're considering is size.
Well, if we had 5 acres, it would be worth 2,700 square feet instead of 1,700. So it's so close.
They're close on so many.
We have 4 1/4 of an acre. I mean, we're bickering over 3/4 of an acre and 1,000
What
square feet.
what is your total acreage again?
428, I think.
4.28.
I think, but I'm not positive. It's 4.2
Right
something.
here.
Yeah, 4.21.
What is it, Joe?
4.21.
We have an opportunity to do anything creative with a
It's
deed restriction,
4.21.
understanding that we're trying to avoid is those lean-tos being later enclosed just on the fly.
Well, you can propose conditions on a special land use.
You can or cannot?
You can, yeah. Just, I guess, the criteria, do you want me to just go through the criteria that we're trying to?
Sure.
So
Yes.
we've got really 3 that apply here because it's not in a side yard. So one is that in order to approve it, you're making a determination that, 1, there's proportionality between the size of the lot, street frontage, and the size of the accessory structure. 2, accessory structures in harmony with the principal structure of the environment, the topography, and the surrounding properties. 3, the materials and colors of the proposed accessory building match or complement the principal building. This would be an addition onto an existing accessory building, so I think you'd probably want some continuity between the existing and the new. But those are the 3 findings that you're.
What page are you on?
I am on, let's see, page 2 of the memo. And
Page 2 of your memo?
Yeah, and in the ordinance, that is, where is that? That's page 5-5.
Where would your addition go?
Right.
To the rear of the
To
existing?
the rear of the,
No,
Not-
east.
Or sorry, 5-4.
east.
East of the existing, so.
Right, so it's
there's
to the
no
rear.
expansion to the road.
No.
No.
view.
Mike, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
We had one over by Stony Creek Orchard. Remember that gentleman, the guy that was into the cars? And we allowed him to expand his building towards the rear. And part of the criteria is no road visibility. Did we allow him additional square feet over the,
We did.
Yeah.
He was over.
remember how much over?
No.
Remember that one, Dana?
I do remember, but I don't remember how many square feet.
I do as well. I don't know.
You don't happen to recall the address, do you?
I could tell you.
What street was that?
It was on Henry Ross, I think.
I think
Oh,
it was in September.
I have another question. The materials that you're going to use to expand your building
You got that.
and colors, similar to what you've got today?
Yeah, it'd be the same. It'd match
What is it
up.
built out of today? Is it wood?
Yeah.
Siding,
Yeah, it's
T111?
wood. It's wood.
Wood, so you would do wood, same color?
Everything would match.
We already have a painter lined up. He's painting the inside of my house right now.
He's waiting for better weather?
He's waiting for you guys to say that we can put our addition up, and then he'll paint the outside, the whole
Find it or
thing.
no?
And the
Looking
house.
through the,
Because we're saving so much money not building a pole barn.
Helps.
And maybe I'll get a new chicken coop out of the deal too.
That was 360 feet over.
360.
But that was 2 acres, right, Joe?
That was 2.06 acres.
Yeah. So it was 2.06, and it's how much over 360?
360.
And here we're talking 4.21 and 680. To me, the compelling part here is there is no garage. So from a what is unique about this request is they don't have an attached garage, and there's no intention or ability to add one, I assume?
An attached
The
garage?
way
Yeah,
we're.
or within 25 feet of the home.
There's no
No.
way. The grade on there is like, we sit way up on a hill, and the grade, there's no way. We'd have to redo that whole thing. Plus, that's how he accesses the, what's that thing called, that hole that you,
Your septic is to, your septic is to the north also.
Our septic is,
yeah, over here, but like the,
is north and east.
it goes like this.
It's
You
in
don't
back-
have-
It's right in back of the, actually, the field lies in back of the chicken coop, but all my piping and all my wires and everything cut straight to the building over there. And it just,
Okay, so I think that's what I'm getting at, is I don't get a sense that adding a attached garage or what qualifies as an attached garage per our ordinance is really feasible on this property. So if we were to factor in there won't be an attached garage, is this request reasonable?
So
A garage today.
I'm going to share my thoughts without making a motion. Some of the arguments given by the applicant to support a positive decision for them is, one, all the additions are to the rear of the yard, to the rear of the existing building, so you're not increasing the building facing or viewing from the street. Number two, if we could propose a condition, I think, of, and if they were agreeable to, is that the existing overhang would never be enclosed as a precondition to the approval. Then the resulting overage is really only 280 square feet, because you've eliminated the possibility of that being enclosed. 240, which is 14%. I think the other consideration is the amount of acreage, 4.23 acres. I mean, the starting point for this is 90,000 square feet, or 2 to 5 acres, right? And they're on the higher side. So you have to consider, I think, as Joe said, proportionality to the lot. And then, as Jared argues, they don't have an existing garage today, so
And I'm thinking
it
regarding.
doesn't make sense for them to have.
Yep, it does. And with their property size, if they had the space, they could do a 1,700, without a special land use, a 1,700 square foot building with a 1,200 square foot attached garage. So basically, this is a mixed purpose building in lieu of them not being able to build an attached garage or within the 25 feet. So, I mean, the zoning ordinance is law. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can with you, but also remaining within the law. And how we do that is trying to, if we are going to submit a motion recommending to the board approval, that it be conditional, where another applicant can't come in and say, well, you allowed for such and such applicant on such and such date. We want the same thing. The more stuff that we take and explicitly identify, it makes that an impossibility.
We want to avoid the thing that says, build whatever you want.
we'll put it in writing, we'll pull a chicken coop down before we enclose it.
No, we're not asking you to do
I'm not
that.
giving up my chickens.
We're not asking you
I'm
to
not
do
asking
that.
you to do that, I'm just telling them,
We're just, what we would do is like to add a condition that you will not enclose it ever.
yes.
So it
Put it in
saves you
writing.
the effort of
Chicken wire,
taking it
right?
down.
I have chicken wire.
Yeah, what we mean is enclosing it
Yeah,
with
like
hardwood.
walls, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, protect it from
I
foxes
like
and such.
watching.
Where
them.
do I
You can
sign?
watch them too if you'd like to. They're very
I don't want a
cute.
shovel either.
They have names.
And what I was
They have
asking,
names, oh, good.
what I was asking Joe about, I mean, these conditions, they fall into a deed restriction, correct?
Well, it's a special land, a condition of the special land use. It's not really.
What I'm going at, I mean, and this is kind of nitpicky, but let's say that 5 years down the road, you know, there's a different administration, an applicant decides to enclose one of those lean-tos. And so possession becomes 9/10 of the law, but as you know, with a deed restriction, that upon sale, it would need to, the sidewalls need to be torn down.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the township can't enforce a deed restriction. But a condition of a special land use approval will run with the land. So if there was a code issue, then it would be enforceable at any time.
We're conditioning the approval.
Right.
All right.
So if they were to enclose at some future time, the township could force them to take.
Right, that's not allowed based on the conditions that were agreed
They
upon.
or a future owner.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, but I mean,
The special land use follows the land, not the property owner.
yeah, but when it follows the land, it is a deed restriction.
In a way.
In a
it's not
it's a
official.
de facto, or,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
but.
Okay. So, but I mean, what we're discussing here, the stuff that becomes part of the, as Joe said, the de facto deed, is that correct? For my knowledge?
Yeah.
Okay.
She has wine.
I'll take it if you don't want.
What about Dana?
She didn't want it.
This is
I'll
better
take
for
it.
you.
All right.
You want one, Emily?
Any other thoughts or comments from commissioners, or is there a motion to be made?
Appreciate you guys going back and looking at this, though.
Trying, you know, I'm trying to improve myself, trying to improve where I live.
We don't want to offend all of our neighbors either. We are trying to be compromising with them, but
That's why we went, you know, and
So, including the chicken coop, what was the final number?
680.
680 over and.
The chicken coop itself is 440 square feet.
Yeah, and the total square footage.
It's in excess of 18 inches, though. So it's be 9.5 times 40.
No,
It's the
you have to
wide.
take the entire square footage to include it as part of the building. It's not just minus the 18 inches.
Okay.
Yeah. It's whatever could be enclosed, and you
Yeah,
could
total.
enclose it.
So 1,700 plus 680, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
2380? No.
20. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah,
It would be-
2380.
Yep,
Yeah,
2380.
2380. Motion time.
I will make a motion. I would make a motion to recommend to the board approval of a special land use for 72-100 Lossier to expand their accessory building square footage by a total of not to exceed 680 square feet based on the following conditions that the.
Wait a minute. Where'd you get the 680?
It's the 440
We're not
plus
approving.
240.
440, it's already there.
Okay.
What you're
Oh, it's
approving is a 900.
900, sorry.
900 square foot addition.
Okay. So I will amend that language to recommend for approval for a special land use of an additional 900 square feet accessory building
30 by 30.
based on the following conditions, that the addition would be not visible from the road, that the materials used as part of the addition match the existing building, and that this is related to the or tied to the fact that there is no attached garage per the ordinance on this property. You know, is there anything else that?
Can I help you?
Yeah,
It would be
condition.
attached.
It is in addition to the existing structure.
Yeah,
I would suggest that rather than not be visible to the road, that the addition be made to the rear or to the
East,
east of the building.
okay,
right?
Because you might be able to see.
East.
okay.
Just
So
because
that
it's
the,
longer.
so instead of, Dana, instead of to the rear, that the addition be added to the east. Is that right? East of the existing structure. Is there anything else that?
I would
Can
say
we add
that
the
the,
Yeah.
Condition that it won't be enclosed for opening?
Oh, condition that the, correct, thank you. The, and adding the condition that the existing overhang related to the chicken coop is not, will not be enclosed.
By walls, I would say.
By
It could
walls.
be enclosed by, fencing
Yeah.
and typical chicken coop stuff.
okay, now that you have that, I think we have to, what is the justification?
Oh, I think we got the no attached,
Yeah, no
no
attached
garage on site.
I would add that the acreage
Yeah.
is at the high end
Of the allowable.
allowable space.
Space.
They're 0.7 acres from being allowed 20 square feet.
Yeah.
And they're under the 27.
Good? We can clean it up if we need to.
Okay.
I think we should ask for it to be read.
All right, do you want to read it back to us just to make sure we got it?
The reason we're so particular is because we don't want to set precedent for people wanting to build things that are larger than what's allowed. Your unique circumstances of what you're proposing provides us with justification.
I understand that, and I thank you.
Motion by Jared Benson to recommend to the board approval for a special land use at 72-100 Lasher to expand their accessory building to add 900 square feet. That's where we're at.
Yep.
To the
900
east.
square feet, that's right, not visible. Instead,
To the east.
To the east of the existing structure.
must match the existing.
Materials.
Materials and color.
Also tied to the fact that there is no attached garage, that the existing overhang never be enclosed by walls, and that the acreage is at the high end of them being able to build 2,700 square feet. accessory building.
Thank you, Dana. Is there a second for the motion?
Second? Yes. You're quick, Randy.
Motion by Vincent, second by Cant. Dana, would you call the roll?
Boyce?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes.
Tremblay?
Yes.
Cant?
Yes.
Hagelstein?
Yes.
Cupid?
No.
Vincent?
Yes. Motion carries. So what that means is this will go to the board for final,
We approve special land uses, don't we, or is board?
Board.
yeah. Guess
So-
for a second, thought ahead.
Recommendation to the board has got, the start of the motion has to be a
Yeah.
recommendation.
This is a recommendation to the board. They will meet in
2 weeks from
2
today at
weeks.
6 PM, right here.
Yeah, the building one, right? The supervisor,
Well, that's Mike Tremblay is part of that. He's the trustee on the board, but they sit in the same place
Is it 2 weeks from today? Is that the next meeting for sure? Or are we meeting this week? A week from today? Let me look for sure. Because of the
Because
holidays.
of a holiday.
Let me look it up real quick on the
Becoming a little
website.
dicey.
So we make a recommendation to the board, they have final say, just so you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So don't tell the painter to get started yet.
Hang on.
Yeah.
We
Hang
have
on
to
a
build
minute.
it first.
Calendar.
Well, I can get back. I'll verify.
Okay,
Hang on.
okay.
Township Board meeting is December 20th,
2 weeks from today, 6 PM.
6 PM.
Yeah, that one is at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Okay, next up, 10B, review the industrial district
Sound
allowable.
good?
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
Don't say thank you yet. You got one more approval.
With you guys fighting on our side, we should be able to do it. Thank you.
Review the industrial district allowable and special land uses.
All right, so we got a new memo on this one. Dated 11/30/2023. So we started discussing this in August, just reviewing the list of permitted and special land uses in the industrial districts. We've had a couple discussions in the meantime. So we're looking at some new language, updating the intent statements, consolidating the IRO and PI districts, and consolidating and defining some use terminology. And definitions are included at the end of the memo, where new terms have been defined. So the first item in the memo is combining IRO and PI. We discussed this at the last meeting, that the districts are somewhat redundant to each other. And we talked about the possibility of combining them. So I have a new combined intent statement for those districts. And it draws heavily on the intent statements for the two separate districts that we currently have, but it also expands on that. So we're basically saying, I'm calling it the Industrial Research Office District, so I'm keeping the IRO name. And the parcels that are currently zoned PI on the map would become IRO parcels. So intended to support economic and tax-based development by setting aside land to primarily accommodate offices and laboratories, scientific, business, technological research operations, related testing operations, and other related uses where office, such as light manufacturing, there's an additional little phrase in there that shouldn't be there, where office such as, where office is
Where you at, Joe?
either. I am at the bottom of that
Bottom of first page.
Yeah. Where office seems to be a phrase I left in there by accident. And other related uses such as light manufacturing, prototyping, and fabrication, and to permit other uses which are complementary in nature. Further, the intent of the district that these uses be developed in a spacious campus-like environment devoid of nuisance factors commonly present in non-residential developments, with all site features developed in a planned and coordinated manner according to an approved site plan. The nature, scale, and function of uses in this district should pose no significant or unusual risk to the public health, safety, and welfare. Operations in this district shall occur indoors and generate a minimum of noise, heat, glare, odor, dust, vibration, pollution, and other nuisances. Buildings should be well designed with exterior architecture using high-quality, durable materials and reflecting internal divisions of office and industrial space. Sites and common areas should be heavily landscaped, especially at the perimeter of the district, and points of access to the district and individual sites within should be limited to only those necessary for the functioning of each site and the district as a whole. So that's the new combined intent statement. Basically, we're looking for kind of a tech park sort of district here, where you don't really have the higher intensity, the lots of stuff going on outdoors. type uses that we might expect in a more intense industrial district, which is reflective, generally speaking, of the existing districts now. And what I've included below that is a table showing the current list of permitted uses and how that evolves in the new district with the new defined terms and, what's carried forward, tweaks to some of the existing wording. You can see there's some bluish, or if it's printed in black and white, it might be kind of grayish, cells in the table where a lot of different things go down to one listed item, and that's a new defined term. So trying to simplify those lists of uses a bit. And there's plenty of things that are the same. And I've tried to indicate also where something is currently only permitted in PI or only permitted in IRO or permitted in both. So things that are currently permitted in both generally carry over pretty seamlessly. And then I've carried over some of the PI only stuff, but I did take out warehousing and wholesale establishments, which are in PI but not IRO, for the new district, and that's based on the discussion we had last time. Then the list of special land uses follows as well. There's more removed here. There's a lot that's PI only and not an IRO, and that includes some heavier industrial uses, the rust-proofing shops, lumber and planing mills, the metal plating, that big retail uses with an industrial character, one which has been edited in the M1 district but is nevertheless still in the M1 district. All of the things that are removed from there are either covered under permitted uses or available in M1. So before we move on to M1, why don't we do discussion on this, and then we'll move on to M1. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I do.
Sure.
At the very bottom of the first page, it doesn't seem like this sentence reads right. It's a long sentence, but the new combined intent statement, it goes on, technological research operations, related testing operations, and other uses where office, comma.
Where office should not be there. I probably had some other phrasing and deleted it.
Okay.
And then left where office in
Okay,
there
I
by
figured
mistake.
it was something that got stuck in there.
Yeah, I wrote and rewrote this a few times. so-
I'm looking at the grid now.
Sure.
Your new terminology, are you actually proposing that if the commission was to go down this line, that you would be coming up with a definition?
It's at the end of the memo. That's included.
It's at the end.
Yep.
I apparently,
Defined term.
Yeah, on page 6 of the memo.
I apparently have left something in my printer at home.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, okay, thank
They are
you.
defined.
Yep. Those definitions are there.
Industrial, good. At the bottom of page 3, you're indicating that the development, the last two items would be included in permitted uses instead of being a current special land use, but I couldn't see where they wound up in the permitted uses.
Right, so the development of professional scientific instruments, electrical or electronic prototypes is covered under, I believe, light industrial, because if, you don't have the definition in your physical packet there, but if you look at the definition of light industrial, it covers the three uses there. So
Got it.
light industrial is permitted and
Okay.
it's covered by the
So I really screwed myself up by leaving something in my printer.
It's covered under permitted uses under M1, right?
It's also covered under M1, yeah, but it is permitted in IRO.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, because it's folded into the definition for light industrial.
That's all I have
Those
on
three
that one.
items.
Oh, it's in the definition. It is in the intent statement or in the definition?
In the definition,
Yeah, too.
in the light industrial definition.
But, okay. So it wouldn't be a permitted use in the IRO, though?
I believe it would because it's covered under light industrial. The product development, let's see, make sure I'm looking at the right thing. Development of professional scientific instruments, electrical and electronic prototypes, production facilities and operations with a high degree of technological input reasonably determined by the Planning Commission to be an integral part of or essential to a permitted operation. And manufacturing process or treatment of products using light machinery such as tool and die shops and metal fabricating. Assembled or sub-assembled products in their finished state shall be immediately portable.
Yeah, I think I'm where Anne Marie is. I didn't see it in the permitted uses table.
I didn't see it there, but you're saying it's covered by
Right.
definition?
The
Maybe it needs to
definition
be
of light industrial folds those uses in by reference. If you read the
But
definition.
does it follow,
of industrial.
does it make it allowable in IRO?
Yes, because light industrial is permitted in IRO.
Is that spelled out somewhere?
Yes, above. So you see there's a whole bunch of uses that are kind of condensed down to light industrial further up in the table under permitted uses. Yeah, it's in this right-hand column there. It says light industrial, see definition.
Show me.
So, IRO, all this here.
Yeah.
Is replaced with light industrial. And that would be per the definition at the back.
Oh, so you're going to get rid of those and just call it light industrial?
Right, exactly,
I got it.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, instead
I get
of
it
having
now.
like
I get it now.
giant. Yep. And as I said, some of the things that are currently listed in PI under special land uses, they don't really seem to fit that
No, I'm going to go back to my same question.
text part character.
Is I don't see those specific things in the permitted uses. Oh, wait a minute, it's in the definition.
Right, because it's in the definition, exactly, yeah.
So the definition covers all those things in the permitted uses, plus the two things you want to remove from SLUs, because it's already in the definition of light uses.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Thank you. Just some cleanup, Joe. In your first table, the new terminology, I think should be consistent with the definition. So be changed to office, professional rather than professional office.
Oh, sure, yep.
And the same thing in the fourth one down where it says medical offices. It should say office/medical or office, medical.
Yeah, I can do that.
And then the one we just talked about where it says light industrial, the definition is actually industrial, light.
Industrial light, yep. Okay.
I agree with all the removals. I would also suggest that under the permitted uses, the one right above the small solar energy systems, the one before the last one, that medical marijuana not be a permitted use. It's a permitted use in M1 light industrial, and I think that was the intent.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
So I would
yep.
remove it as a permitted use
Sure, yeah, it's
and
in.
leave it as a permitted use in
I
M1.
want to say it's in PI right now, but
Yeah, I would just remove it. If we don't want that in
Which
tech
one?
part.
yeah,
Medical marijuana registered primary
Yep.
caregivers.
okay, yeah, we can remove that.
Joe, on the definitions that are being referenced with respect to office, professional office, medical, if they're added at the front end in terms of all the definitions, are these also going to impact the O1 district?
Yes, we would make sure to make the terminology in the O1 district match. I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
But definitely we would do that.
Okay, so this won't, I'm not familiar with O1 too much. these definitions won't mess up what we want to do there.
No, in fact, they probably allow us to simplify the lists in those districts as well, to a small degree. And then I would go through and search for any other references to office that we have in the ordinance and make sure that we make the terminology match. That's kind of the next part of the process once we're comfortable with this.
So personally, I agree with all your recommendations for consolidation and removal in our IRO and P1.
Okay.
I didn't see any reference to hazardous materials, waste or byproducts. I feel like that might be something we want to include.
We could talk about it in the intent statement. Yeah, I think we could add a reference to it in the,
Are you saying to prevent it or, yeah, okay.
Prevent, restrict,
Hazardous materials, what was the other one?
waste or byproduct.
all right. Okay, those are some good cleanup items for next time. Are we ready to move on to M1, or do we have anything else to discuss under IRO and PI?
I think we're ready to move on.
All right. This one not changing quite as much because we're not consolidating anything. It's going to be the same district. Did slightly change the M1 district, talk a little bit more about the quality we're expecting in terms of construction and sites, overall site development. And then the list of uses, hang on, I want to make a note here. So IRO is incorporated by reference to the district. We discussed making warehousing and wholesale establishments and mini warehouses a special land use at the last meeting. I didn't move it yet, but I put a note in there that we discussed making it a special land use. Is that something that we want to do? Is that we're all on board with that? Okay, so we will do that. We will move that. The industrial light is the same consolidation as above. Building material sales, we would remove that from the permitted uses because it's actually included in the retail uses that have a warehouse or industrial character. So that would not be listed separately. And then under special land uses, one use that's not listed at all right now is contractors' yards, and we know we have a couple of them in the M1 district. I've listed them here under special land uses. I don't know if you'd prefer to have them under permitted uses. They have to go somewhere.
I think we talked about having them as a SLU going forward.
Okay, yeah, because it just struck me that we seem to be getting a lot of
We seem to be attracting them
recently, so it gives you a little bit more leeway to do anything you need to do to mitigate the impacts of those. If they're a special land use, you can place more conditions on the
You've got it listed as a special land use.
Yeah, I listed it here as
Yeah.
a special land use, just as a new thing that's not listed now. Another thing we discussed last time was that retail uses with the warehouse or industrial character, and then there's a semicolon, and it just keeps going and lists a lot of things. We talked about eliminating everything after that semicolon, which is what I've done here in the language. The rural suburban permitted and special land uses is listed as a special land use right now. I think that should probably be removed. I don't think we want like a subdivision going, like a residential subdivision going into our, even as a special land use. I just, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I think that removing that is something that we should do.
Makes sense.
And then the rest is pretty straightforward. The household recycling facilities, I actually did specify that that's a location for collection where individuals can drop off and self-sort said items. Processing of recyclables wouldn't occur on site. And I think that a recycling plant would actually fall under industrial, heavy. So we're being a little more specific about what we mean there.
Joe, I have a question. Under the permitted uses, existing single family is listed.
It is.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I don't, just perceptually, I don't like
So-
seeing a single family in M1 district.
I don't think there really is much at the moment.
Does that mean if it exists, but there's no new?
Yeah, so if you have a house that's there and it's zoned industrial, it's treated as a permitted use for the purposes of if you want to do an addition or something like that. Whereas if we treat it as a non-conforming use, then you probably can't expand it at all. There's probably very little you can actually do with that house. So I think the reason it's listed here is to treat it as a permitted use if it's already there. You can't build a new one.
Okay.
But if you've got a house that's there and it's been rezoned industrial, that house might still be there for another 40 years. So we're going to allow you to make modifications to it.
Or if they wanted
unlike a
you
non-
to use the house for an office.
Yeah, you could do that too. But yeah, that just gives people a little bit of flexibility if they already have a house in that district.
I also saw under defined terms industrial park, but I didn't see where it was used. Is it used somewhere and I missed it?
I
or should we get rid of it?
didn't wind up using it. I put a little, I put a definition in there and then I wound up taking it out.
So we can just get rid
I
of it?
think we can just get rid of that one.
This may be opening up a ball of wax, but does the M1 nomenclature make sense anymore?
Why,
Since
is that
we're
not
not,
used anywhere?
we're not calling it manufacturing anymore.
Well, what do you think we could call it?
I mean, we're taking out the LI district, which would stand for light industrial. Or that's PI actually, come to think of it.
Right, you could tell it, call it LI.
You could call it the LI district or the I1
L1?
if we're moving toward an industrial.
I thought about that too. I kind of like the idea of the I-1.
Okay.
I1 or L1?
I think you'd go with I1 just to mirror the structure of the way we list other districts, R1, R2, C2, C3. I think.
What if we added clarity and call it LI?
You could do LI1.
I like that.
Here, Aerosmith.
The bee sting wasn't too bad.
Oh, a lot of work changing the map.
All right, any other comments on the M1 changes?
All right, I'll clean that up, I'll bring it back, and then I'll identify other places that might need to change in the ordinance, and then we'll kind of look at it all together next time.
Nice work, Joe.
Thanks.
Before we go on to new business, let's wrap up the unfinished 5G. I assume there's no open discussion for tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Okay.
We do 5 minutes?
Yeah, I say, like, now we're done with the unfinished business, let's take a short break,
We have a celebrity.
Stretch your legs.
Make it 10.
We have a celebrity in the room. You do have a celebrity in the room, so we'll
guys ready?
You guys ready? We're going to kick it back? Okay. So 9:22, we're back in order. Down to item 11 on the agenda, new business, amending the bylaws. So Commissioners, you've all received a copy of the bylaws in your packet for this month. As we have proposed changing the start time of the Planning Commission meetings going forward, that would require an amendment to the bylaws, which is found in Article 5, Section 1, where it says most regular meetings will be held at the Township Hall on the first Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. unless proper notice is given canceling such meeting. So I would propose we amend the bylaws to update the time to start at 6 p.m.
Second.
Is that a roll call or at all in favor?
I think either one.
Okay. Motion by Vincent, second by Tremblay to update the bylaws to start the meetings at 6 p.m. going forward. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Joe, that's a done deal, right? We don't need to take it to the board.
That is a done deal.
Okay, so that means our next meeting, which will likely be February, will be 6 p.m.
All noticing will need to reflect that in the future, so.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll just make sure that we double check all of our future agendas and newspaper notices and things to say 6 p.m.
Change all the templates.
Yep.
Given the time, would anybody have heartburn to table the agribusiness discussion?
I brought it up and no.
Okay.
You can all review the
Yeah.
language, and next time, maybe we can record some concerns and set some policy.
I was ready. Look at all that.
I agree. If everyone would, between now and next meeting, just review the document that Joe provided us, and let's come with any questions or comments we have, and we'll discuss that at that time. Item 12, comments from committees and consultants. We don't have any committees at the moment. Joe, any other comments?
Other than happy holidays.
Merry Christmas
To you
to
as
all.
well.
You too.
Any comments from commissioners, item 13? Anything from the board that we need to be aware of, Mike?
Not at this time.
All right. Make a motion to adjourn at 9:25 p.m.
I will make one statement that I did bring the board up to speed that we were reviewing our industrial district stuff, and they were all very positive about us looking at that.
And I have a question. The report for the year, report that we must issue.
In January.
That goes in January,
We'll do it in
prepared by you?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, I prepare it, yep. So I'll be trying to get that to Lena before the holidays here.
Yeah, and then, we're gonna discuss it, but the January, the first Wednesday in January is the 3rd. It's our first day back here. We have no agenda, so.
All right. I move that we cancel that meeting. Any objections?
It's too late for anybody to add something, correct?
It is.
The only thing that I wondered was if anything got tabled, so I held off because if anything got tabled for next
So you made a motion, Jared?
but it didn't.
I did. I don't know if that requires a motion, but
Wait.
I didn't want to suggest beforehand because I thought if Rotarius or Walker got tabled till January, but now that hasn't happened.
Okay.
It's possible.
Yeah, so the deal with canceling a meeting is that you have to post a notice at the location of the meeting 18 hours in advance of the meeting, or a minimum of 18 hours in advance of the meeting. So it's really a matter of, do you preemptively cancel, or do you wait to see if anything crops up that we would need to discuss then? I guess the deadline for applications has passed.
Dana, if you just want to email before the holiday break starts, and if nothing has changed from where we stand today, then we'll make that.
Because it can be canceled at the call of the chair as well, so.
Okay.
Does that require a motion for documentation?
I think the chair can make that decision on his own.
That's correct, yeah.
All right. I made a motion at 9:25, it's out now 9:28. Seconded by Cant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.